Hello Indie fans, we have an interesting selection of titles in May, with quite a number of early access games which have already shown a tremendous amount of potential, where I have every confidence that these will turn out great, so see what you can play right now coming up in this video. Let's begin with Spirit Hunter's Infinite Horde, the first of many Vampire Survivors likes that we will be seeing on the channel, and while the core concept is the same, does have tweaks that makes it of interest. If you're not familiar with this sub-genre that really blew up in popularity, your attacks and abilities automatically fire off and target enemies without you having to aim, so it's more about movement and avoiding attacks, but it feels so good to slaughter hordes of enemies. The visuals in this are much better than its inspiration, with fun abilities and quite the character class variety, but due to the early access nature of this game, it's always undergoing balancing changes, but part of the fun is learning and adapting to these. I honestly did not see this one coming, since while I've had my eye on Soda Crisis for a little bit, I never did expect it to take off in popularity in the way that it has. This is a side-scrolling action platformer with an emphasis on action, where a hero goes on a rescue mission and might just save the world. There are tons of weapons, upgrades and tools to use, with a decent 2.5D look as well, so if you love straightforward linear action titles, this is one to get.
The Black King had been quite jacked, and other to the white side had gone all his subjects.
There are two games that indie developers always manage to make interesting in golf and chess, somehow getting me sucked into their games despite the long history of these games, with Shotgun King The Final Checkmate being the latest example of that. This is a turn-based roguelike where you play as the Black King, going all Rambo with a shotgun and having to take out the opposing white forces. The most interesting part is that there are random upgrades within the run that change your build, so to speak, giving it a clever roguelite twist. A very stylish action roguelite is Loot River, a Souls-like entry with deliberate combat but from an overhead view, where the distinguishing feature is the ability to move the platforms in a Tetris-like manner. It does lead to tactical decisions, such as being able to charge up a heavy attack and to move the platform in at the last moment to get you into range of enemies, with unforeseen elements such as locking the platform in place in certain scenarios. However, I did find the puzzle sections to be a little dull, and there were issues with enemies getting stuck, and that you might be able to cheese some fights as well, but the developers have been busy at work with various patches and are responsive, so I say give this a go.
Wake up, sleeper. Dreaming again? Every cycle you take your chances. You roll your dice.
It is not often that narrative titles manage to capture the imaginations of many, which is why Citizen Sleeper is something special indeed. This is a digital tabletop RPG set in the ruins of interplanetary capitalism, where you play as an escaped worker, finding their way to a lawless space station and having to find a way to survive.
Wake up, sleeper. Your body is dying. Planned obsolescence. As an ARP's gift for its escaped workers.
This is done through the use of dice, where you roll a bunch of them at the start of the day and then choose where to allocate these in terms of tasks. The cast of characters is wonderful, with a very bleak, almost existential narrative, since there is a ticking clock on your own life which you must find ways to prolong. It truly is something different and unique, with some excellent world building and writing, making it one of the best of the year so far.
Access their secrets. We are waiting.
Unsurprisingly, We Were Here Forever is a huge hit, being the latest entry in the We Were Here series of co-op first-person puzzle games. This has you and a friend working together to solve puzzles to escape a strange and deadly realm with a creepy jester-like character as the primary antagonist, so it is a little spooky, but it's not a horror game by any stretch.
Have you not read what has been foretold? Men and women bold have found a way out of this cold. Surrounded by the icy deep, he would have us trapped forever. But outside this keep lies freedom. If we're clever.
Co-op games tend to be weird when assessing them, since your experience will vary greatly depending on who you play it with, but if you have a friend that loves puzzle games like Portal, I would highly recommend this game. A double dose of life sims is coming right up, beginning with Little Witch in the Woods, a super cozy game that has you playing as the newly appointed local witch, having to do witchy stuff like gather ingredients and brew potions in order to help the local townspeople. It has one of the most adorable pixel art styles that I have seen, especially in the pet cat that you can keep, giving off all sorts of warm and fuzzy vibes with the wholesomeness of this game. I've seen this being compared to Stardew Valley, but will caution against that, since Stardew is so much bigger, more established, and frankly, a better game at this point, but the gameplay loop in this is still a little too simple for my liking, but a tremendous amount of potential nonetheless. Speaking of life sims, let's kick off the top 3 with My Time at Sandrock, the sequel to My Time at Portia, and given the quality of that game, it's no surprise that the sequel is great as well. This has you playing as a fledgling builder or craftsperson, taking on the job and being assigned to the desert town of Sandrock, and having to help restore it to its former glory. All the expected elements are there, from farming, mining, crafting, and combat, and in many ways is more of the same, but there are improvements like the combat systems and better graphics. While it is still in early access, I've seen people clock over 50 hours into this already, so here's hoping that it gets even better through early access. I have to give a very special shout out to developer Lava Potion, who has brought back one of my favourite series of all time in Heroes of Might and Magic, with their spiritual successor, Songs of Conquest, which is simply excellent. This is a turn-based strategy game that comprises 3 main sections: overworld exploration, turn-based combat on a hex grid and upgrading your base, where this is such a tribute to the HOMM series, which has been dormant for 7 years. As always, it is up to indie developers to revive games like this, with added strategic changes like terrain height in battle, limits to army size and more, giving this their own unique twist. It is already fully playable, with the developers seeking feedback on how to make this excellent through early access, but I have full confidence that what is there already will appeal to fans of the series. And of course, V Rising gets top billing since this survival crafting action RPG is truly something special, where I saw a statistic that this has already sold 1.5 million copies in early access, which is very impressive stuff. You play as a newly reawakened vampire who has to get back their strength, rebuild the keep, and conquer lands that were once theirs with fantastic Diablo-style action combat. However, most interestingly, this is like Valheim in many ways, the survival game hit from last year, in that it has excellent base building elements, and add to that a compelling progression system that keeps you coming back and you have a winner. However, I am concerned about the public dedicated server structure of this game, where at this point, unless you already have friends playing, it might just be best to play on a private server, but the quality of the game alone is excellent, taking the #1 spot. For more games like Diablo, watch these videos and I will see you after the jump.